Most people are familiar with the ancient peoples of Egypt, Greece, and Rome, but unless you're a historian or an archaeologist, you've probably never heard of these fascinating yet forgotten ancient civilizations. Aksum. Aksum has inspired countless legends, but the actual ancient civilization was a powerful trading empire in northern Ethiopia. At its height 3rd to 6th century CE, the kingdom of Aksum was the largest market in northeastern Africa, using the Nile and the Red Sea as trading routes. Aksum adopted Christianity in the 4th century, but eventually lost its power as Persians and Arabs took over its trading territories. Kush. The origins of Kush date as far back as 8000 BCE, evidenced by ceramic artifacts found near its capital, Kerma. Located in the southern part of Nubia, in northeastern Africa, Kush was a highly stratified and complex urban society supported by large-scale agriculture. The Kushite rulers revitalized the erection of the pyramids, fostering their construction throughout Sudan. Their unique script, called Meroitic, as well as their demise, is still a mystery. Yam. The exact location of the African kingdom of Yam remains a mystery. Knowledge of this ancient civilization comes from several Egyptian texts from the Old Kingdom period. Scholars have turned to a tomb inscription called the Autobiography of Harkuf, who lived during the 6th dynasty, around 2345 BCE to 2181 BCE, and whose tomb is located among the tombs of the nobles, pictured for clues to its whereabouts, yet remain divided as to how Harkuf could have made the journey across the Sahara Desert before the invention of the wheel. However, hieroglyphs recently discovered over 700 kilometers (430 miles) southwest of the Nile confirm the existence of trade between Yam and Egypt and point to Yam's location in the northern highlands of Chad. The XIONGNU Empire. At the end of the 3rd century BCE, nomadic pastoral peoples who inhabited the eastern Asian steppe formed a tribal confederation of fierce warriors who fought on horseback. The XIONGNU dominated a vast part of Central Asia for over 500 years, covering large swaths of present-day Siberia and Mongolia. China was pushed to explore and conquer much of its territory from fighting the XIONGNU on its northern border. Fun fact: the recurring invasions of the XIONGNU prompted the small kingdoms of northern China to begin building what is now the Great Wall. GRECO-BACTRIA. After the death of Alexander the Great pictured here in statue, a splinter state called GRECO-BACTRIA came into existence in the 3rd century BCE in present-day Afghanistan and Tajikistan. The kingdom was a wealthy land and a unique combination of Greek and Eastern cultures. The bulk of GRECO-BACTRIA's history is traced through its coins, but much remains unknown about the culture, which was eventually overrun by the Kushans. Yuezhi. The Yuezhi were an ancient people who ruled Bactria and India from roughly 128 BCE to 450 CE. They began as nomadic tribes in northwestern China, trading jade, silk, and horses over a vast territory, which brought them into conflict with the XIONGNU. They therefore moved west, where they conquered the Greco-Bactrians and displaced the Saka people. The Yuezhi eventually established a sedentary, agricultural economy, and Yuezhi missionaries helped propagate Buddhism in China. The Mitanni Kingdom, located in the land of the Hurrians, modern-day Syria, northern Iraq, and southeastern Turkey, the ancient Indo-Aryan kingdom of Mitanni existed between the 16th and 13th centuries BCE. It is speculated they held Hindu beliefs, such as karma, reincarnation, and cremation. At one point the Mitanni were incredibly powerful and influential, with some believing that their empire was able to rise and expand due to the decline of the old Babylonian Empire. However, much of their history is lost, its traces having been destroyed by the Assyrians. At the height of their power, the Mitanni maintained good relations with Egypt, as evidenced in letters pictured between the Mitannian king and the Egyptian pharaoh. TUWANA or TYANA. TUWANA was an ancient city at the time of the Hittite Empire and was located in present-day Turkey in a strategic location on a fertile plain. The small state served as a bridge between East and West, aiding the flow of trade and culture between them. Most notably, the kingdom adopted the Phoenician alphabet as its script, which may have been brought to Greece via TUWANA. One of the most impressive monuments left by the Romans at TUWANA is its aqueduct. Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan Empire, in ancient India, existed between 321 and 185 BCE. After the death of Alexander the Great, Chandragupta Maurya established the Mauryan dynasty, whose territory covered most of the Indian subcontinent. The empire was a well-organized autocracy with a standing army and civil service. It was the first pan-Indian empire and would come to an end in 185 BCE, after a coup that divided India allowed the Greeks to invade. The Indo-Greek Kingdom. Ruled by numerous Hellenic and Hellenistic kings, the Indo-Greek kingdom covered much of the northwest and northern Indian subcontinent for 2 centuries, from 190 BCE to 10 CE. The Indo-Greek kings combined the Greek and Indian languages and symbols and merged Greek, Hindu, and Buddhist religious practices. The Indo-Greeks eventually disappeared after they were invaded by the Indo-Scythians. The SILLA. The SILLA kingdom ruled most of the Korean peninsula from 57 BCE to 935 CE, but little remains of the royal dynasty's reign. However, in 2013, the bones of a SILLA woman were discovered. She was revealed to have been in her late 30s, having an elongated skull and a vegetarian diet consisting primarily of rice, potatoes, or wheat. As it developed, SILLA society became centralized and hierarchical, with a wealthy aristocratic class. Archaeologists have found a variety of luxury goods, from a gold and garnet dagger to a cast iron Buddha to jade jewelry. The Indus. The Indus or Harappans, whose land stretched from present-day Pakistan to the Arabian Sea and the Ganges in India, formed the largest known urban culture of antiquity and had many of the trappings of modern societies, such as wells and bathrooms, sewage and drainage systems, walls and granaries, and even dental care. Its citizens produced artifacts such as pottery and glazed beads. This advanced civilization, which reached its peak between 2500 and 2000 BCE, was believed to have been forced to disband and migrate due to climatic changes that dried up much of its territory. The SANXINGDUI. This Bronze Age culture was located in modern-day China's Sichuan province. Thousands of golds, bronze, jade, ivory, and pottery artifacts were discovered in 1986 in two giant sacrificial pits dating back to the 12th and 11th centuries BCE. The pits contained animal-faced sculptures, bronze masks, human-like heads, decorative animals, and even a 2.62 meters 8-foot bronze upright human figure. The artifacts, many of which display the use of sophisticated bronze casting technology, are believed to belong to the SANXINGDUI culture, in the kingdom of Shu. The culture is thought to have been fairly advanced, capable of making wine, ceramics, and sacrificial tools, with a primordial religion and a holy regard for nature. Only these artifacts give clues to this ancient culture, as it left behind no historical records or ancient texts. The Nok. The ancient Iron Age Nok culture is thought to have existed in today's northern Nigeria from 500 BCE to 200 CE. In 1928, a small tin mining operation discovered a terracotta head. Since then, more terracotta sculptures have been unearthed, some depicting people wearing elaborate jewelry and carrying batons and flails, symbols of authority also seen in ancient Egyptian art. Others portray people with illnesses such as elephantiasis. Still other artifacts have included iron tools, stone axes and other stone tools, and stone ornaments. The Etruscans. In northern Italy, the Etruscans flourished from the 8th to the 3rd century BCE, until they were taken over by the Roman Republic. Although much of their culture would be lost, many of their tombs and their contents and wall paintings survived. Etruscan cities, independent states, were linked by religion, language, and culture. This strong commercial and agricultural society was a theocracy in which religious ritual was a part of daily life. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe for more information.